You're welcome to today's class. Our lesson today will be on how tenses are used in a conversation or in a dialogue. So, in this lesson, I want you to pay rapt attention. Take note or make sure you actually notice how the tenses are being used in the conversations that we are going to read or the conversations we are going to use as example in this lesson. First of all, we will be looking at present simple and present continuous tenses. And for these kind of tenses, you will learn how these tenses are used in a conversation or in a dialogue. And so, the dialogue we are going to use to show how these tenses are used is an interview dialogue. But before then, I would want to introduce some of the keywords or some of the vocabularies that you need to know, some new words for you or some new vocabularies that you may find difficult to understand. I've extracted them, I've put them in the beginning of this lesson and then did a thorough explanation of these words, these vocabularies, so that you will be able to understand the sentences in the conversation. So, at this point, we will first of all begin with introducing present simple and present continuous tenses. Present simple tense. So we want to give some examples of what we mean by present simple tenses. And then the examples are what you will use to actually know what we mean. So we have three examples here. The first one says, I usually get up early and go to the gym. I usually get up early and go to the gym. This is an example of simple present tense. How often do you travel for work? How often do you travel for work? You can see that the verbs in these sentences are in their present form. They are present tense, and so they are used in present simple tense. Okay, the third line says, she doesn't work from home. She doesn't work from home. Now, in this case, you can see we have three different sentences. The first sentence is the usual present simple tense, which we will always know. It is no question, it is just a simple statement. I usually get up early and go to the gym. Now, the second one is a question that uses the frequency, that is the adverb of frequency in the question. Okay, how often do you travel to work? So this is a question. Now, a positive question in this case. Now, the last sentence is a negative statement. She doesn't work from home. She does not work from home. The short form, that she doesn't work from home. In this case, you could see again that then this is a negative statement, but then the verb is in its present tense. Okay. Now we move on to present continuous tense. Present continuous tense. First example, I'm studying French for a test right now. I'm studying French for a test right now. This is a present continuous tense, and what you will always use to notice a present continuous tense is it normally the verb it normally have the verb normally has ing at the end. It has a suffix ing. So studying, it actually tells you this is present continuous. What are you working on this week? What are you working on this week? This is another example of a tense in the present continuous, working. They are getting ready to open the new store. They are getting ready to open the new store. In this case, again, you see getting ready. So that ing form tells you that this is in the present continuous tense. And so, having introduced both the present simple tense and then the present continuous tense, then we go ahead to now list some of these vocabularies and give a thorough explanation to them. Now, the first vocabularies we have here are take time off, average day, studio. So these are some of the vocabularies you will see in the coming conversation, on the conversation that we're going to read before the end of this class. But for now, I want to explain some of this. Take time off. You can see the present, the phrase, take time off. What does it mean? Take time off. It means to stop working in order to do something else. You take time off. Maybe you are writing or you are just in your room reading and you have read for like 3 hours and you want to read for like 6 hours. So after 3 hours, you now go to eat. So you take time off to eat. Okay. So after eating, maybe you use 1 hour to eat and then you come back. So you have taken your time off. Okay. You took 1 hour off from the reading you've been doing and you have to come back to finish off. Number two, average day. Average day. Now, the meaning of these vocabularies are as they are used in the sentence. It is contextual based. It is based on how they were used in the context or in the conversation. So I want you to remember them because when we now get to the conversation, you will see them and you should know the meaning. Okay? Average day. Now, the meaning in this case is a normal or a typical day in someone's life. Okay. Now, if you have been living in Thailand or even living in Prachinburi for like 1 year, okay, a typical day has a meaning for you. Like you can say that maybe on Wednesday you are likely to do this. You already know what you normally do on Wednesday. So on a typical day, you have an average day, okay? What you normally do on a normal day. So a normal or a typical day in someone's life is an average day, okay? So number three, studio. Studio, what does it mean? The room in which a movie is made, okay? Now, when you record, when you have a place where you can record films, you can record movies, you call the room a studio. You have cameras, you have a lot of things there, and you use it to record what you are doing. And so the room is called what? A studio. Now, another word is shoot some scenes. Shoot some scenes. Now, this is a technical word used in the movie industry, okay, in the movie making, okay. Shoot some scenes, okay, to record scenes being acted out on a video camera. So when you are recording in a movie, you're recording something that is being done in a movie, you are actually shooting some scenes, or the action of doing the the movie, okay, and being recorded at the same time is shooting. You are shooting some scenes, okay. So to record scenes being acted out on a video camera. Now another one is script. Script, what does it mean? The lines an actor needs to speak in a movie. Now, if you want to act a film, you want to act a movie, you will be given some lines to act. They will write it out and then you have to practice it, and then you have to now come to act it. And so the lines you are given is called a script. Okay. Another one is career. What is the meaning of career? Career is the job you have for most of your life, what you do for a living, what you intend to do if you are still working towards that path. Okay, so the job you do for most of your life is called your career. Okay, the next thing is future projects. Future projects, what does it mean? The work that you will do in the future is your future project. Okay, now the next thing, focus on something. Focus on something, what does it mean? To try to do only one thing at a time. You focus, have a focus. Now if you are looking and are looking in the sky and you are not looking at anything, you are not focused. But if you are looking at, let's say, an eagle, then you are focused on one thing. You are focused on the eagle. So to focus on something is to look at something and that thing alone. Okay, so or to try to do one thing and that thing and alone. Okay, so to try to do only one thing at a time is to focus on that thing. Now the next thing is documentary. Documentary, what is the meaning of documentary? Documentary is a type of film about something that happened in real life. Now some films are just done as kind of, they are fiction. Fiction is something that is not real, but some films are done because it has happened, okay? Or some films are just recorded from the people that have got the experience from them by themselves, okay? So it is a real life, so we call it documentary. Retire, what is the meaning of retire? To stop working permanently. So maybe in Thailand, when you reach 60 years and you're working in the government, you have to retire. What does it mean? You have to stop working because you have gotten old. Okay, the final thing we have here is chores. Chore, sometimes you will hear this word chores. What does it mean? A routine task, something you do every day, especially a household one. Maybe when you wake up, you have to sweep your environment. That is your chore. When you wake up, you have to go and cook the breakfast. You have to make your bed. You have to make the room clean. These are chores, okay? So that is what it means by chores, something you do for yourself in your household. Okay, so having introduced these vocabularies, now we can now go into the conversations proper and now see how these conversations use tenses, or how the people that engage in this conversation use the present tense and the present continuous tense. Now, the first one is about present tense and present continuous tense. So this is the first interview, we call it interview one, okay? Now, the interviewer, thank you for taking some time off. Thank you for taking some time off from your busy schedule to answer a few questions about your life. That is the interviewer, okay, telling the interviewee or somebody he's interviewing. So we have Tom and then the interviewer. So the interviewer says, thank you for taking some time off from your busy schedule to answer a few questions about your life. You can see taking, present continuous, okay? Now Tom says, it's my pleasure. Now the interviewer says, could you tell us about an average day in your life? Tom now says, sure, I get up early at 7 in the morning. Then I have breakfast. After breakfast, I go to the gym. The interviewer says, "Are you studying anything now?" Tom says, "Yes, I'm learning dialogue for a new film called The Man About Town." Now the interviewer now says, "What do you do in the afternoon?" Tom says, "First, I have lunch. Then I go to the studio and shoot some scenes." The interviewer now says, "Which scene are you working on today?" Tom says, "I'm acting out a scene about an angry lover." Now, the interviewer says, "That's very interesting. What do you do in the evening?" Now, Tom says, "In the evening, I go home and have dinner and study my scripts." The interviewer now says, "Do you go out at night?" Tom says, "Not really, or not always." Tom says, "Not always. I like going out at weekends." Now, you can now see how the interview went between Tom and the interviewer. So the next thing we want to now see is present perfect tense. Present perfect tense, okay, and uh, past future tense. First of all, we look at present perfect tense. Now, what are the present perfect tense? Let's look at examples. I've visited many countries throughout the world. I've visited many countries throughout the world. Now, visited in this case is present perfect. Visited in this world is a past perfect tense, is used in terms of past perfect. So, present perfect. I have. Okay. Now, because of have is telling us is present, I have. Then visited is the perfect. Okay. So, visited. Okay. Visited is both present and past perfect. Okay. It can be used in past. Okay. It can be used in present perfect. It can be used in past perfect. But then past perfect will be had visited. Okay. So, but in this case, it is present perfect. I have visited. I have visited many countries throughout the world. So, telling us present perfect. He's made more than 15 documentaries. He's made more than 15 documentaries. He has made. So past tense of make is made. Past perfect. Present perfect, sorry. Present perfect. Now the next one is she's worked at that position since 1998. She's worked at that position since 1998. Okay, she has worked. Okay, worked. Okay, so you can see this is an example of what present perfect tense. Now we look at future tense. Okay, in this case we just look at the future tense. I'm going to visit my uncle next week. Okay, future, I'm going to. Now there are two indicators of the future. I will is telling you future. Going to is telling you future. So when you see going to, it tells you about future. Or when you see will, it's telling you about future. So in this case, going to is telling us about the future. They are going to open up a new store in Chicago. They are going to open up a new store in Chicago. Again, going to is used as a future tense. Now, the third one, I think I'll take a vacation in June, but I'm not sure. I think I'll take a vacation in June, but I'm not sure. So I will. You can see will instead of going to now is will. So telling us about the future. She thinks she'll get married soon. Will again is telling us about the future. So this is future tense. Now we're going to see how these are used in conversation. So the interview part 2, okay, here we are looking at how present perfect and future tenses are used by the interviewer and then Tom. Now let's see. The interviewer now says, let's talk about your career. How many films have you made? Tom says, that's a hard question. I think I've made more than 50 films. The interviewer now says, wow, that's a lot. How many years have you been an actor? Now, Tom says, I've been an actor since I was 10 years old. In other words, I've been an actor for 20 years. Okay? Now, the interviewer now says, that's impressive. Do you have any future projects? Tom says, yes, I do. I'm going to focus on making a few documentaries next year. Few documentaries next year. Okay. Now the interviewer now says, that sounds great. Do you have any plans beyond that? Tom says, well, I'm not sure. Maybe I'll become a film director and maybe I'll just retire. The interviewer now says, oh, please don't retire. We love your films. Now, Tom now says, that's very kind of you. I'm sure I'll make a few more films. The interviewer now says, that's good to hear. Thank you for the interview. Tom now says, thank you. You can see that here most of what is used is present perfect and future tense. Present perfect and future tense. So you have to pay attention to how these tenses were used in this interview so that you'll be able to do the exercise that follows this lesson. Okay, so when you do that, then it will show whether you really understood the context of the interview and again how to use tenses in an interview. Thank you for listening.